Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today. We are going to be touching on AI, and with that, kind of building trust and driving innovation. So, I'll give you some intros of our amazing speakers. First, my name is Allison Del Grande. I am a marketing associate here at Specright. I'll be the host for your webinar. And for our speakers, we have a great lineup. Ayman Shoukry and Evelio Mattos. So I'll give you a brief introduction and then let them take it away. But Ayman is the Chief Technology Officer at Specright, leading product and engineering teams. With over 15 years at Microsoft, he was the group program manager for the Visual C++ team. Ayman also served as the Chief Technology Officer at HireRight before joining Specright. He brings executive level experience in strategy and team growth. Ayman holds a master's in software engineering from Newcastle, Australia, and a BSc in computer science from the American University in Cairo. And Evelio, named one of the 200 best packaging designers by Leisure's Archive and Graphic Designs USA's People to Watch. Evelio is an industry recognized packaging design expert known for his ability to engineer strategic user experiences. His focus on user experience, coupled with sustainability systems and packaging, allows him to share his knowledge to elevate our industry. Two really amazing speakers with us today, both with an expertise in AI. So we're very lucky to have them, and I will bring them on and let them take it away. Thank you so much for joining us,
you,
you
Allison.
both.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah. And then quickly running through our agenda. First, kind of want to touch on AI applications in business and what that's looking like today and looking forward, AI in the packaging industry, and Specright's approach to AI. So with that, I will let you guys take it away.
Awesome. Hey, Ayman, how you doing?
Not too bad. Busy, but not too bad. Thank you.
No, excellent, excellent. I think just as you being the expert on the actual development and processing of some of this stuff, I think it would be great if you can just kind of level set, like, what is AI, before we get started, and like how we're actually using it.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you said, like it's been there here for a long time, right? Artificial intelligence or machine learning is part of that as well. AI is simply, like in simple matters, it's just systems or application systems, correct? Computer systems that are able now to do complex tasks that were deemed only done by human beings in the past, right? Solving specific problems that was complex enough that we all had to solve ourselves. AI just solves it for us, or accomplishes those kind of tasks that used to be accomplished by human beings only, right? And then as the evolution of AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning, so more and more complex algorithm and more complex problems are being solved now with AI. Nevertheless, again, it's like, especially in the packaging industry and supply chain, I know the hype recently with all generative AI and all the stuff that's happening there. There's more focused on it. All right, people are asking more about it, but again, that's existed since a long time now across different industries.
Yeah. So I guess we could just jump in. We just jump into this, right?
Like, absolutely.
So let's kind of go down. Let's go down these insights and perspective. I think it'll be a good way to kind of go through this conversation.
No, it's definitely it's the whole shift now that's becoming very interesting. From in the past, it's like, okay, it's a nice to have or not, correct? Does your platforms has artificial intelligence or machine learning capabilities? Does it have generative AI capabilities? What kind of data you're sharing or not? All of those interests has been rising tremendously. I mean, parts of the pros of working on a startup like Specright and others like myself is I tend to get involved in more and more of RFPs, customer discussions, especially with prospects. All right. And now one of the major parts or major questions being asked, are you using generative AI or not? What kind of AI capabilities do you have in your platform? Right? Are you sharing my data? How accurate it is? Like, it's the whole focus of, it's not just big data and getting me results, but it's like, I wanted to start depending on it. But before I depend on it, you got to tell me your model, is it accurate enough that I can actually rely on it? Like, I'm going to be reliable on it through daily tasks. Are you accurate enough? Are you suggesting the right thing for me or not? So it's not about just, hey, here's what you can do. No, prove it's the correct thing to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're kind of over sort of over the honeymoon phase, right?
Right.
Where everybody's really excited about everything that you can do with generative AI, and the visual, text to image, text to video is exciting because you can see something pretty, but it's not necessarily the right solution in every instance when it comes to visual. And obviously there's text to text. And that's what I think the majority of people, that's their experience with AI today. But on the back end, it's really all of the data. When we talk about supply chain, there's nothing pretty about AI and supply chain. It's just data and efficiency. And that's not sexy. Yeah,
Yep.
it makes money, but it's not sexy, right? People aren't like,
Yep.
oh my God, look how pretty this this box that made it here from there, how much faster it made it.
No, it's you're right. You're right, Elliot. I mean, there are different parts of it, right? It's part of it. A big part of it, as we started even on our side, and again, that's even part of the next discussions and everything. Like it is first stage is we call it on our side, at least. We're in a spec management platform, right? As a Specright, right? Which is understand your own data first, like which is spec intelligence first comes before artificial intelligence, right? It's like you correlate your right specs to the right products, to the right packaging, like correlate them first in a structured way so that you can feed this data to your AI models, right? Like which helps that accuracy part. It's not just the sexy part of it, but it's like what kind of tasks are you doing on every day that will help you be more efficient. Like one of the parts that we hear from customers, like in supply chain, you get tons and tons of unstructured data, right? Like whether that's PDF documents, images, and also you're feeding your systems with those, but you can't track what's happening. Like look at like certificate of authorization or authentication, certificate of analysis, right? Having your test results for your supply chain tests. Like those are all just PDFs out there. You have no idea this insurance certificate that this expired for that supplier or not. How am I going to parse my test? Did they pass or not? Do I have to open those thousands and thousands of documents one by one and look at the results? Or do I have the intelligence system that, again, can use, it doesn't have to be generative AI, but generative AI can kick as afterwards, but can actually just parse those unstructured data and tells me, hey, no, your tests have passed or not, or that supplier has that quality or not. And then you start thinking about what's next. Like once I have all this data in a certain format and a certain way of being able to even report on it, even as simple as, again, look at it as a rather simple report of which supplier met my goals or tests or not. You have to get to that stage first to be able to feed that data into your models, at least.
Okay, and then when we're talking, Specright and spec data, like you said, there's all this unstructured data on like PDFs, emails, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets that you currently receive. Then you go through it today, and tomorrow you get another PDF, and you've got a million other tasks that you're doing throughout the day. Yep. You're not connecting the dots necessarily, and you're definitely not connecting them historically and forward looking. You're just, okay, this answers today's question.
Correct.
When you pull all that information together, I'm assuming putting it into Specright, then you would be manually putting that information into a system, right? Like the PDF information, the Excel information, to create your personal data profile, I would say, where your data is not open source. It's
correct. And the part about the AI in this area is the actual ingestion of this data. That's where AI kicks in as well. Like you think about intelligent document processing, right? IDP. That's all about getting those data from just feeding your systems with those documents, but having the right machine learning algorithm, all stuff to extract this data from an unstructured way to a structured, so that you can start actually understanding your own information. Sure. Like if you have a new hire in your packaging team, right? Like how do they know this spec of that specific box, right? Where is it used? What kind of product, what kind of bombs are depending on it? I'm going to change that spec, right? What's the impact of it on the rest of my supply chain, right? If you're not correlating this data in a certain way, they wouldn't even know about this. If I decrease, hey, I switched this material from X to Y, did I affect my sustainability goals at the end or not?
Right.
But Like you've got to have this information somewhere together, linked. And that's why we call the spec intelligence, at least. Like the process of ingesting all this data into one place in one system, AI is helping right now doing this for us, right? Which is, again, it's not the sexiest part of it, correct? But it's the part that you used to do manually, as you were saying, right? One by one, getting this information or opening it. Well, now you know what? No, I can ingest this data quickly because I have a similar format for that PDF that I get. Like I have a similar Excel format. I have a similar images. Like you build those models and you can parse this data and get it back into your system versus doing it manually, like in the past.
Sure. So then, let's say we're implementing this system here for our supply chain, and all of our data is collected in this model, yep, where I can then interact with the information. We have an event like we had in Baltimore, right, where all of a sudden I can't bring product in here. Which typically what's happening is right now is manually you're trying to figure out where I can move my products, where my final delivery is, and what kind of trucking I have to now reconfigure. But if I've got this system in place, can I just say, this no longer works, I need to get it here, and then have the system come back to me with like some realistic solutions?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So next step is you start mixing your data that you've collected already, that you own, with the rest of the world data, all right? Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like, it's still the trust part is not there yet, right? Like you look at your first data. Now I know my data, I own it, so I can verify it, and I'm allowed to even change the models and everything. The next step is even running, again, artificial intelligence in your own data. Like think about chatting with your own data. Hey, tell me what bombs are impacted by that change, or tell me my effect of my sustainability. The third is exactly what you're mentioning, right? It's like, okay, now I trust the system enough. Do I go for some of the existing open source and special intelligence platforms that's out there and start mixing? Oh, this has happened in Baltimore, correct? This is happening in the wars that's happening across the world, correct? In the Ukraine and others. Like I have products that depends on this. What's going to happen? Do I shift suppliers or not? And you start mixing your data. It's like, okay, you have this 4 or 5 products that rely on that supplier that exists in that area. That will be delayed because of X, Y, and Z that's been happening. And no, we recommend you shifting from that supplier to that supplier, or there's going to be delay, or being even to be proactive in that, like your system listening to what's happening and then alerting you in the next step even. It's like, hey, you know what? You might want to have set expectation you're going to have delayed supply chain, right? Like if you've been promising that product by this amount of dates or this time frame, well, you're going to have to extend it a month or 2 because of what's happening. Or this are the other options, shift to the other suppliers or other areas, or that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. So then, I just picture like the way it works today is you've got your supply chain in place, and yep, then either you happen to see something in the news, somebody on your team sees something happening in the news, your customer sees something happening in the news. There's some sort of delayed alert, and the worst is when your customer's like, "Hey, did you see what happened in Baltimore, or what's happening in Panama?" And you're now having to react to something that you weren't aware of, right? Versus yep, this would be, this is happening, here's what you need to look at.
Absolutely. It is basically using the data to suggest for you. Like at the end, you have a goal of getting a certain product in your supply chain on the shelves or to your customers at a certain date, right? Like it's the ability to help you navigate all of those challenges, right? And the use is only going to grow. Like this is just one example, or 2 examples that you're mentioning, correct? But it's like the key still, like if you can't link those to the right data that you have already, more of those suggestions are not going to be right. It's a garbage in, garbage out thing, correct? It's like, hey, you know what? If I don't have if the data I have that I'm relying on those suppliers, but this is not accurate, you're not really relying on them, then all suggestions around it will be wrong still.
Yeah. That's the challenge.
That's the part about the trust of the AI we're at, correct? It's like, it's shifting from a nice to have to a dependency, but you lose trust if you're getting 2 or 3 times, more than 1 time, wrong decisions, correct stuff, and you're depending on it, and you're getting hammered by that decision from your business perspective, you lost trust. And at that moment, you're going to shift back to what you were doing in the past. And believe me, you lose trust in hours, you get it back in years, right? That's usual.
Yeah, that 100%, right? And that's the risk that we run if we start deploying something too soon, or we don't necessarily have established safeguards on something like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where exactly it's like, because again, the different parts about trust is just not trust of the results. It's trust of the security about those advanced scenarios as well. Like we get lots of inquiries from customers saying, are you sharing my data? Are you training the model and sharing my data with the open world? Does everybody now have access to my information that I don't want to share? Like what this looks like. And I tell people that's part of the 3 stages, right? First, understand your own thing. Again, it's like just map your stuff together with help AI and all the stuff, machine language, all stuff will help you. Machine learning will help you understand your own data, your own supply chain data, whether that's specification, that's BOM level, that's product level, whatever it is, you're going to use it that way. And then you start applying the scenarios on your own data. And the way we approach in Specright, we actually don't train it on the data only, we train it on your data model. Because once you actually start correlating the specs, correlating those information together, that's a certain data model that we train it so that you can start having answers to your questions or to some of the problems you're trying to solve based on your data model versus the actual information as a first step to gain that trust. And then, yes, there are some areas that you'll have to start sharing the data, but that comes next after you gain the first level of trust.
Sure. I know.
And having the ability, giving the ability to those users and customers to actually turn off and on as well at any time. Like, no, share this data or not. I want to take advantage of it or not. Because again, you're right. That's going to come gradually. Like you can't just depend and say, I can't go back. Like, no, you can go back if you want to, right? And having that on and off switch gives you kind of the internal peace kind of a thing that, hey, I can try it. If I don't like it, I can always go back kind of a thing. Take the risk kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know so if we look at AI in packaging, and my team over at IDP Direct, like we're testing AI in a lot of different areas just to see like where the proper application is, right? And some of it is supply chain, some of it is design. There's so many different aspects that you can deploy this in. We're seeing clients coming in with basically this document's going around, which is, if you're going to work with us, we rather you not use any AI, some type of document that's stating there's no AI in the development of our packaging, which is like this blowback. People concerned about their data, people concerned that there's actually not a human developing it, their packaging or their process, which I don't necessarily feel is the right approach to this, saying don't use AI for my product if it's going to give us the right solution. It's not how we get there. It's like, is it the right solution? So would you see the same thing with Specright? Like somebody saying, hey, I want to use Specright, but I don't want any AI involvement because I'm afraid of
we are seeing, it's interesting. And it's common even across, you'd be surprised, Evelio, common across bigger and smaller companies. Like I figured that, hey, some bigger companies are already doing their AI models and everything. They'll be more comfortable with it. But now we're seeing in some RFPs is like, there's now sections being added. Are you using AI or not? And some of them approach it as, hey, please turn off AI for me. Like we don't want it for now. Yeah. Others start asking more questions about it. If you have using AI, then, okay, what are you using it for, right? Are you sharing my data? Who are you sharing it with, right? What kind of data exactly are you sharing? So some of them are looking for, some of them are like haven't crossed that bridge yet to be able to use it. Others are saying, well, I want to know more before you start using it. And I want to make sure that if there's anything that I am not on the same page with your use, right, or it's not according to my policies, at least my current policies, which they are evolving as well on their side, then at least I can turn it off and on if needed. But definitely, it's starting to evolve into show me the value first. Yeah. Like basically, it's like, okay, you're using AI. What are you using it for? What if you don't use it? Like, how is this going to impact me as a customer of Specright? Like if I don't use the AI section or the AI capabilities, what kind of features I wouldn't be able to use? And at that moment, they're starting to evaluate, okay, do I care for those features or not? Are those features giving me efficiency, as you said, in designing my packaging, correct? In suggesting better suppliers. And then if that's the case, well, is it important for me now or not? Like, do I take the risk or not? Or do I start by saying, can you share a subset of my data only, for example? We've had some questions like this. Like, do I get to pick which data exactly you run your AI on or not? So again, that's we have seen some customers are all into it. Some are, no, I want to use it,
Yeah.
but I don't want to treat it as a black box. Right? Tell me exactly what's happening inside it.
Sure. And that's the challenge, right? I think you can give a pretty good idea of what's happening inside, but you can't always connect all the dots because it's not a black or white answer.
Yep. No, I agree. And part of it is showing the value. Part of it is showing the value that's bringing, and it's going to take time to have an evaluation from that customer perspective. Is it worth? There's always going to be a risk for any decision you make, especially at the start of that journey that we're having, and it's from the customer perspective. Is it worth it right now or not? Right? And we've seen some customers that they start not using it, and then afterwards they start using it because their policies themselves are changing, even internally. Right? So it's like internally it should be, okay, I'm not using any. And then in 6 months, oh, we're starting allowing X or allowing Y, right? That's the kind of a thing.
Yeah. I've spoken to a few different brands, some large brands that have a zero AI policy. So zero AI meaning they've got their own version of Microsoft in-house, which has no Copilot attached to it. They've got their own versions of Adobe, which they've worked with Adobe, that shuts off any kind of generative AI data collection. And these are companies that are on the cutting edge of tech, and they want zero outbound communication, with AI, and they're not even developing their own internal models. And for me, it always feels like this is happening whether or not you're on board. Your competitors are using this. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage, right? Like, at least it feels that way, that if you're not using AI in some capacity, at least to collect information, to present you options, you're moving slower than your competitors.
Correct. And even for us initially, like on our side, when we considered using it, we had our doubts, like everybody. But you're absolutely right. It's like it's a coming, whether we are part of it or not. You can either be on the train or you're off it, right? Like, and part of it is we started even internally using it first ourselves. Like, there are some to get comfortable with it, even before applying it to our customers, to be part of our offering, right? We started using it internally ourselves. Okay, even simple in our marketing outreach and all stuff, writing blogs and stuff like that, correct? Like, does it help us do that faster? We started looking at this, and then started even in our engineering and product teams for our internal use, like the co-pilots for the different code generating, correct? Like different programming languages and all stuff from Microsoft and others, right? And then you started, okay, I can start offering some of those capabilities as well to my customers to take advantage of that. And that's where it's like the evolution. We had to feel more comfortable with it first, and then we start getting it as well to our customer. And it has been differentiating factor, especially if you start having that open discussion about your customers, like, hey, I'm not sharing your data. It's training it in your data model first. So you know what? And I'll never share data outside of Specright or any tool that we offer unless we get your permission first. So at least you get them that comfortability part, and they're at least willing to be part of some betas and start using it. And at the moment when they start seeing the benefits of it, some don't, some see the benefits. Then they start saying, okay, I'm more comfortable. I've been using this for the last 6-7 months or a year. Can we move to the next level of, yes, I would love to be able to contribute to that world and get my data in, and being able to mix this with the outer world, and have to have decisions that, as you were speaking about, shift your supplier from X to Y, or shift your material from Y to Z to become more sustainable. That kind of AI intelligence side of things.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking through like current conversations I've had. So yesterday I had a conversation with a client out of the UK. They've got, we're designing packaging, producing packaging, shipping it to 5 countries for like a specific launch. Each of these countries has different sustainability regulatory language that needs to go on there. And, one of those countries happens to be the US, which then it's not like the US has one regulation. It's every city, every township has its own regulation. So, okay, so where in the US exactly are these products delivering to? Will they be available via e-com to these other cities? Because now if it's going to these other cities, then you have to adhere by those regulations. And then the customer, of course, the brand's like, well, okay, so tell me all the regulations for each of these cities. And it's like, well, I can't, I can't manually go and find, 87 cities across the country and see their specific regulation around this particular packaging, realistically. So like, this is an opportunity, I think, for AI to definitely be like, okay, this is, I'm delivering to these places when it comes to supply chain, and it comes back to me and says, do you have this regulatory copy? Whether it's food, medicine, fashion, doesn't matter. Everybody has their own regulations.
Some of the people right now, some of the companies are doing it like manually, correct? As you were saying, looking one by one, and amazing number of spreadsheets that's there, looking at every area, more complex spreadsheets ever you can see. Some are building one-to-one direct point integrations with some sustainability databases, correct? Regulatory databases. But those are evolving as well, right? And some of them have to put even some footprints like in those different countries and different places to actually understand even the regulations, because the regulation comes out just as a regulation. You need to convert it to a way that your system would understand it, right? You have to translate that regulation itself. And that's always not simple. You're absolutely right. I think the next stage is being able to have those regulatory databases work on an AI level side of things to be able to ingest this data directly into the different platforms and different systems, so that you can flag and be proactive and answer those questions. Like automatically, if you are selling your product in the US and Europe, everything, it could be flagged instantly before you even develop the full product. When you're working at, we keep saying it in our side spec level, the DNA level, the formula and recipes of your product, and saying, hey, you know what? This food colorization is not allowed in this place, so you can't even have it as part of the spec unless you fork your spec and you're doing it in the different areas and everything, correct? From scratch. And that would be even proactive at the start, before even, again, at your new product development side of things. Huge opportunity there, huge opportunity.
Yeah, no, I mean, it'd make my life easier, right? If I'm being selfish, then that'd be.
I know it's easier said than done, but it's definitely something that a number of us, whether us as Specright or other companies, are exploring for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely important. And I would ask, like, so then if we go back to Specright, how are you addressing the reliability and your data security, right? Like, we just had a huge data breach in the US from for an insurance company. I think it was United Healthcare, like $1.8 billion cost to fix this. Like, how are you keeping my data separate from somebody else's data? Like,
so good question, great question. So our approach, as I said at the start, is we are not using the data to train our models. Right now, is in phase one. Well, unless it's, again, the structured to unstructured, every customer for us has logically is a different entity, different instance of Specright, right? So their data are separated from each other, at least. Obviously, we have all the MFA, multi-factor authentications, encryption, arrest, and transit, and all this kind of stuff for your data when they're with us. We started by intelligent document processing as the first part, right? And training the model on the data model itself and not actually the actual data in that sense. So the idea is, you know what, again, spec intelligence first before artificial intelligence. Correlating the specs to the right spec families, what we call, to the right BOM level, and helping you first as a first step of AI, being able to have the natural language questions and saying, you don't have to run reports. If you're a new hire, for example, in your company, you would have to understand the correlation of your data. Where's everything? You can just ask a question. Can you tell me where's this substance being used? Just a simple question in English, right? And the system will be able to answer, you know what, this is used on those different products. So if you change it, you're probably going to impact all those products as well. So think about it as a verbal running reports to just get you an overall understanding as a first step, right, of this. The second step that we're doing is connecting what we call the Specright network and enabling the AI level network. Basically, think about everyone that's on the Specright network and not just the worldwide, right? Being able to share whatever data you want with specific member of that network. That data doesn't have to be, it's by who, when, and to how long, and who specifically, and what kind. It's on the field level even. Like I don't want to share everything about my specs, but giving you the more the comfortability of saying, no, share field A, but not field B, right?
Yeah.
Like having that granular level gives you the more confidence. And once you share this data, then you can actually start correlating this data together, ask those questions based on that network first. And then the third step we're looking at, we haven't started, is connecting this data with the rest of the world. Because again, that's where the confidence is not yet there, because that's where your data is going to could be mixed with other, right? But that we're not at that stage yet at that moment. Again, the confidence, some customers, which is rightfully believing in, hey, my packaging data, my recipe data, my formula data, this is all my IP, right? So I want to be able to find a way to protect it, even if I get the other benefits. So part of it is absolutely, we started again by intelligent document processing, generative AI more on the data model, connecting it with the rest of the world is the next step. But even on all of that, those are all can be turned off or on by a switch in your platform as a configuration, right? Saying, do I do this or not? Yeah. And being able to see the use of it. Well, if you don't have that switched on, then you won't be able to ask those questions. The expectation is you have to go one by one, run those reports and all stuff. Efficiency, some people prefer that, that's fine, right? If they don't have the confidence yet. But we believe as new and new generations are coming into the market, into the packaging industry, supply chain industry, generative AI and AI and machine learning in general are going to be considered. It's not a nice to have. It's expected to be there. It's granted, right? Like every system now has something there, and the new generations are expecting that. So eventually.
Okay, so I got a bunch of quick 5th grade level questions for you.
Yep.
Right. One, is it going to be something if I don't share my data, then I can't pull data from other people, or is it just shared information?
Well, if the others still choose to share your data with you, then that's okay.
Okay.
But you won't get that much benefit, correct? Again, unless you're part of the whole thing, because eventually you're absolutely right. Some people are not going to share data with you if you don't share it back.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Then next 5th grade question is, all right, when we talk about keeping, I've got your data separate from your competitor's data that happens to use Specright, and then the other, like, how do you keep them separate, right? How do you keep these things, which is just ones and zeros, from overlapping? Is it on a separate server? Do you have a floppy disk? Like, how do you keep these guys?
Yeah, no, we have logical separation, right? Different databases and all stuff. So we actually have, if you think about it, we have different instances of the platform that we support. So we have completely separate databases in that sense. And obviously, even if you have it on the same database and everything, it's not. You only have access to it if you're part of that credentials, correct? That's where it's like any system, right? If you look at Microsoft, Salesforce, correct? Any of those, like, how do you guarantee that your CRM data on Salesforce is different? Every customer gets their own different org, correct? Right. Logically, they're totally different. They have different credentials, different security settings. So you have to apply those credentials, kind of a thing, to even have access to those kind of data.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments and questions of people saying, well, AI can get into everything, because we've seen all the movies, right? So like, it can just spread. So there's really no way to keep things together. But no, it's just like my bank, right? I log in with my banking credentials.
Exactly. I mean, to be able to have access to this, whether you're a process, correct, or we call it a system credential, correct, or a user credential, or whatever, you have to have that credential that allows you to have access to this. If you don't have it. Right. Obviously, unless we're hacked and everything, right? Again, but that's going to be a bigger even problem, right, than everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. No, man, that's great. And then, so what are, I guess the main takeaways here are data, spec data, right?
Yep.
Like, garbage in, garbage out. So you have to make sure that your information going in is good. Do you have is there like a list of information that you want to collect from people? Because I think every everybody in packaging has like different information, right? You've got your team that does regulatory, formulation, they do design, then they do materials. So it's obviously the more information, the better.
Correct. It all depends in your scenarios, correct? Like if you're looking at packaging only, then it's packaging. If you're looking at new product development, then you should be able to link this packaging and everything to your BOM level and all the product level and all that kind, right? If you're looking at running quality on your specs, right? Then you think about, we need information, certificate of authentication, certificate of analysis, correct? The whole side of things, correct? Certificate of insurances, all of those becomes because it's different suppliers, different test results. If we're looking at sustainability, then you've got to have some sustainability information, whether that's in the carbon footprint board, scope 1, 2, and 3. That means your suppliers as well becoming part of that network and everything. Then again, the more data, the more you're going to be able to those verticals that you build on your spec levels, at least on the Specright side of things. But again, it's not just collecting the data that's important. As I said, it's providing that intelligence around your data of correlating this data first. That's more important. And the ability to do that, and AI and others can do those kind of work for you initially.
Sure. And then what's your first step in building that trust with the brand and AI?
It's ability of telling them what's the value they're going to get, specific 1 or 2 features, right? Being able to turn it off or on, and providing them the right insurance on and trust on that, like their data is local only. That's not going to be shared with others as a first step. And I think that goes a long way initially, at least for us with some of our customers so far, to start trusting that part. And again, correlating this data is important. And we're focusing not on a huge amount of data, but more of the right data that you have. Again, the shift from the big data to the right data first. And we're seeing that even in RFPs and customers asking for it as a first step of gaining that trust.
Got it. And then, so where are we 5 years from now? Like, what does this look like if everything works the way that we want it to?
It's the hardest question ever. Utopian, correct? Like it's a one big network that everything is connected, right? Securely, being able to really consolidate in our world, and as like Matthew, our CEO, calls it, the one spec world at the end. Like we don't like if you look at all the drinking water, correct? The water ingredients and formulas and all stuff. There's probably a handful number of water ingredients out there, right? But if you look at the actual ones, you probably have thousands and thousands of copies. Like being able to just share that one on the network and being able to, hey, can you get like focusing on the collaboration side of things, focusing on really on your IP and differentiating factor, and letting AI does for you more of the expected or commodity side of things. That is at least in the next 2 to 3 years, at least in the packaging industry, at least. My guess is some people will take it even more advanced, even especially on your side, really on the design side of things, right? Because there's endless scenarios there, especially on the look and feel and design that AI can help in.
Yeah. I know on the design side, as we start wrapping up here on the design side, I'm super, super excited to see what we're doing. There's a lot of great applications out there, from creating templates that move based on your dimensions, based on your material selections, which is, it's not AI in the sense of, creating something amazing, but it is from a machine learning standpoint of, it knows these processes and it can apply these formulas and give you feedback in real time. And that's the stuff that really makes it a tool that's useful today versus some of these other, amazing image generating and video generating concepts, but they're not necessarily good concepts, right?
Yep. No, I get it.
Yeah. But I think as we continue going in the next 5 years, we'll see this stuff actually applying. I've seen some packaging hitting the shelves that have been generated by AI, and it's not amazing. It's amazing that it happened, but it's not amazing when you compare it to other things. So there's still a long way there. And I think it's important just for anybody that's looking at this, that the pretty flashy graphic stuff is completely separate and different from the business side of this, where we're talking, machine learning and education. Because I think when we see the images and we're like, oh, the hands are weird. If I can't trust that this can make hands, how can I trust it's going to have my data? Completely two separate animals. But I think because we call everything the same thing, AI,
Agree.
there's that mistrust in language.
I agree. No, it's been great discussion. I'm sure it's going to evolve. But yeah, thank you for being part of that discussion, Evelio.
No, I appreciate it. And Ayman, your background is amazing, and getting your take on this is really cool, because I think everybody's so focused on the visual aspect of this, and it's like that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that's
absolutely
possible.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ayman and Evelio. It was such a pleasure having you. Learned so much personally. Hope everybody else did as well. If you're curious to learn more, if your question didn't get answered today, you can visit us, specright.com/get started, and talk to one of our experts, or just explore our website and figure out what other resources you can find. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, bye.
Thank you.